Is it going? Is it going? Gordon. It's going to start. Right, we're back up and going. Part 3 here with the main man, Paul Cooper. Who were the best 3 riders that you ever raced with, and why?
Well,
on the spot.
Yeah. The best riders, I mean, it was Robbie Herring for sure.
Talent.
I also did race against Jeremy and Ricky. Trouble is this, you need to give me more than 3 because there's also Stefan Everts. I mean, yeah. I mean,
well, you can have 3 Americans and 3 Europeans then.
Okay.
Just for you. Just for you.
The Americans that are raced, I mean, it sounds a bit glamorous. I mean, I did race against Ricky at a couple of the Des Nations races, and can I divulge into a little
please,
about Ricky.
Go on,
So at St John d'Angely at the 2000 Nations race, on my awesome Husky, I ended up hole shotting, and Ricky was second, and we had a couple of corners going up and down a couple of hills, and then you went down into the final right-hander, which was a steep downhill, sharp right-hander with only there was one line on the inside, a deep rut, and then you went up, out, and over to like the double section. And I went down covering the inside because I know how they race and everything, and I was like, I'm not letting him past you. I'm on the inside, and I sat down with my leg out to go into the rut, and the little bugger literally just hit me straight in the knee. So he just lined me up, even though I was on the inside of it, and just did it anyway, hit me straight in the knee, and I literally bounced out the rut and landed on the outside of the corner.
Wow.
And in that moment, I saved it. I didn't crash or anything, and I stayed in second place, sort of squirreled away up the hill after him. And I was angry, and I was like, "You little shit!"
Yeah.
So I went, right, that's it. I'm gonna hit it in the next corner. I'm gonna flip and I'm just gonna T-bone him. I was so, when you just have the redness.
Gonna nail him. Yeah.
And half a lap later, I was like 10 seconds behind him, and I actually started giggling at even though it was the middle of the it wasn't the middle of the race, it was first lap.
Yeah.
But with all the adrenaline, I actually giggled a few times because I went, well, if you can't catch him, you can't T-bone him. So, I just had one of those shrug your shoulders moments and just got on with it. But yeah, I mean, he was just ridiculous. The speed, obviously, that he had, and not just 1 or 2 races. It was just every race. You could count on it. And I had one awesome the time when I met Jeremy McGrath, we were racing Sheffield Supercross. And in the semi-final, it's my little claim to fame, actually, when people ever ask. So I don't know, so I gated second and he gated third, and I immediately, whoever was first, I managed to jump past them on a tricky little rhythm section. And I got into the lead and pulled a decent gap. And he was stuck, he couldn't get past them. And by the time he did get into second, I had such a big lead that I ended up winning the semi-final. And that was my claim to fame. He came 100%. To me afterwards. He said, I was coming. And I went, I know. I mean, I had like another 2 laps left in me, and he was going to be passed. But luckily, the checkered flag fell, and I managed to do that.
That's pretty cool.
And I mean, who else the Americans were just incredible, really.
Wasn't Larry Ward there? Because didn't Larry Ward always go to that Sheffield?
He often used to go, but he wasn't there that time. I think it was that one was in 03. I can't remember who the other riders were, but I certainly didn't have that performance in the main event. I mean, I think I was 5th or whatever, but yeah. So that was
beat Jeremy McGrath, so.
But yeah, just for that one little moment. But
yeah, that's amazing.
I do have to tell people that it was a short race, and I was very lucky because I just managed to get into the lead. But him and Robbie are the best guys that I was lucky enough to race with and against, and of course Carmichael and Everts and Tortelli.
Yeah, Tortelli, God, yeah.
The list goes on. And
it would. Joel Smits, and Pichon. It just goes on, doesn't it?
Bolle. I mean, also he was quite a strange rider because he was a little bit unorthodox the way he rode, and but he rode very efficiently. It didn't always look the prettiest, but he was super smooth and efficient, and I think super talented. And I mean, remember when he retired, he actually went and started doing those indoor supermoto races, and he annihilated everybody on those things.
Did he?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Anyway,
so he sort of definitely went on, didn't he? Because he was. I remember him on Kawasaki with Everts and things like that. But then he went on and obviously started winning championships.
Yeah, he filled the void when Everts left. He just took it to another level and won. It was 2 titles he won, I think.
Yeah, I think it was 2.
Yeah.
He did really well, didn't
he? Yeah, no, he was great.
I was going to ask you, is there any? Do you still like watch any of the racing, GPs, Supercross, anything, and anyone you enjoy watching, particularly now?
No, I know it's bad, but again, very similar to when I sort of stopped racing. I just literally never rode again. I also never watched. I have not watched one single race.
Wow.
Since I stopped, and the only track I've been to in the UK is when I went with Neville.
Where was that?
Well, he actually put on a 2-stroke. I don't know if he told you about that. Last year, he put on a 2-stroke practice event.
Okay.
So, but I actually can't even remember what the track was called. It was in Oxfordshire somewhere. And actually, him and I, we're looking to actually put on an event this year still. It'll be an Evo 2-stroke, but actually a race event. So, yeah, we're looking into promoting one of those. But yeah, so it's a bit bad. I just haven't followed it. So I don't even know who races and it's a shame, but again, it was just something, it was my whole life and I was so passionate about it. And when I couldn't do it anymore, I just didn't want to be involved, which is a bit silly, but it's just how it is.
I thought you might have dabbled in the Supercross or something, or
no. Literally nothing. I used to love watching the Supercrosses when it was McGrath and Ricky, and that I literally, I mean, I was still racing, and I used to live to watch those on recording. Even at the GPs, I'd wake up in the morning on Sunday going, who won, you know. No, I just don't anymore. Just because the problem is it makes me want to do it, and I know I just can't, so I'm not going to.
I shouldn't probably tell you this, but lately there's been on YouTube. Remember the Motorvision people always used to do the tapes back in the day?
Yeah.
They've sort of come onto YouTube and they're loading up all the 90s GPs. And
oh wow!
So I've seen like bits of you on there and
all sorts.
No, I didn't see you crashing.
They had a few of me doing some.
Did they?
But that'll be quite cool. I might.
That's what I mean. It's a nice little reminisce if you want to have
that.
It's pretty cool. I sort of pretty much most nights now watch a bit of that, so that's quite cool.
Good.
Yeah. Next one, I've got injuries, obviously, of course, part and parcel of the sport, as we know. But were there any certain injuries that you feel held you back from possibly achieving more, especially ones that maybe a lot of people didn't realise that you were just trying to ride on with?
Yeah, so unfortunately, like you say, there were a lot of those in the background, and this is the interesting thing with the sport is that a lot of the time you have to keep a lid on it, so that people don't actually know what's really going on, exactly. Just because of sponsors and all that.
Yeah.
But I think one of the worst ones is I had a lot of surgery on my left arm before I even left South Africa. So when I was a teenager, I broke my arm very severely, and it stunted the growth of the radius, which is the growth plate was damaged. Yeah. So I had to, before I actually came to the UK to race, I had to have bone grafts, and they try to extend that bone. So my left arm is quite a lot shorter than my right, and my wrist doesn't bend. And then I ended up breaking that 3 times, and then I broke my actual hand another 3 times as well, all on the left side. Through my career. And so that was always a bit of a question mark for me. I used to have a lot of pain with it, and I couldn't bend my wrist properly either. So I've seen lots of pictures as well where I can see that my hand, it's sort of overlapping onto the clutch because it actually doesn't bend properly with the bars. But that was one of the main ones. And then obviously the injuries that impacted my results. So I think in 99 I was leading the British Championship, and I ended up breaking my hand at Madura, and then end up missing championship races, having surgery and all that.
Mm.
Same happened with the knee. But I'm trying to think if there were any. Probably the one that no one knew about was my. I can maybe show it on video here because I don't know if you can actually see it. I snapped my bicep tendon.
Oh, right, okay.
Don't know if you can see. It's got a horrible lump there.
Yeah, I can see the lump. Yeah.
So that was in '98. I dislocated my shoulder the year before, and I think it had damaged the long head tendon. And months later, I was having terrible pain in the shoulder and couldn't figure out what was going on. Went to go see a surgeon, and they injected me with some cortisone or something. And a week later, doing some Supercross practice, going through some whoops, it just snapped. And that was about 3 days before the Fox Hill GP of '98. And I still went there, and I just carried on racing. I didn't miss any races, but I had to adapt. And also, we didn't publicize it to anybody. At the time, I was racing the SoCal Kawasaki. We just kept that under wraps. But it was just one of those things which you actually learn to race with. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, not cool. One of the questions was, obviously Britain haven't had a world champion since Jamie Dobb in 2001. I was going to say to you, I know you've not really been involved with the sport ever since, but obviously the $1 million question is what needs to happen for us to be back at the front somewhere in that route.
Yeah, I mean, that is a good question, and I would have to say I'm not actually knowledgeable enough to say it like what they would be, but especially because I've just been out of it. But I suppose you could try and look at what they did in that season when Jamie won, and he was racing the Kurt was running the team on the KTM, and they were super professional the way they approached every GP. I mean, you probably know this, but it was quite different to how any other team they would all go out to whichever country it was where they were racing and have a team practice day somewhere close to the venue, as simulate the track as close as possible, get the jetting right, do all that kind of stuff. And I think with that mentality and preparation between the whole team, people start feeding off of each other. And I think it sort of built this steamroller that just actually had so much momentum. And I think it's those types of things that make the difference. And maybe that has to, I don't know how it goes now, but if you look at the teams that win, I mean, Ronaldo used to win all the time, and same thing, very, very professional, very organized. There's like a proper structure in place all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's what always pays dividends. So, maybe it needs a bit of injection of cash for a team to evolve a little bit. If you think about in cycling, how for years the British also were literally off the map on international cycling, and the government, they formed a huge initiative, pumped a load of money in, and I think it's out Hinkley somewhere, they started doing lots of proper testing, analysis, and before you know it, there came Sky, and they just kept pushing, looking for marginal gains everywhere, super professional, and ended up dominating the sport.
Wiggins, the classic Wiggins, and
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was really cool. I was going to ask you as well, when you actually finished racing, was there any opportunities to still work in the industry, as in like a team manager or with sponsors or anything like that? Was that never considered or offered, or what happened?
I didn't really consider it, and I think I made the decision to retire very quickly. Okay. Literally, I think I decided about 2 weeks before the last race, which was the British at Matchams. I think it was about 2 weeks before that I decided that's it, I'm going to retire. So it wasn't sort of common knowledge either. So nobody approached me, and I'd already set my sights on another career, and I just left, and that was it. So I just didn't think about it, and it also came down a little bit to the same reason why I don't ride, because I loved it so much, but I loved racing, and I didn't see myself standing on the sidelines. I thought that's going to hurt me too much, and I would just get frustrated. So yeah,
not a good watcher.
No, I'm a terrible spectator. The only thing good at spectating is cycling, because I know I watch the Tour de France and stuff, and those boys are on such a it's just a different level, and I love watching that because I watch it with no I don't know what the word is, but self-involvement. I know that they're just superhuman, and I just have to do a little shout out to Tom Boonen, because he was one of my heroes. We've talked about motocross heroes. He's probably my number one cycling hero.
Yeah.
And Gary actually managed to organize to get a signed photograph from Tom. I don't have it here. It's upstairs. But yeah, he signed it to me.
Really?
I was super chuffed.
That was good for you then. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we actually bumped into him, not to speak to, but we were out. I was cycling with my trainer, Stefan, and his wife, Lenny. We were out doing a ride in Belgium. And we were cruising along and got to some traffic lights, and some dude pulled up next to us and then hopped off the pavement. Off he went. And I remember Lenny, Stefan's wife, she looked at me, she went, "That was Tom Boone." And I was like, I know. But anyway, there he was gone in the distance, so we didn't get to speak to him.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was really cool. Right, one of my last couple here. Right.
Yeah, I told you I talk a lot and I pull you off subject.
That's cool. That's cool. I've come off subject a couple of times as well, but enjoying it. What have you been doing with yourself since you finished racing?
How much time do we have?
For you, as much as you want.
Yeah. Well, I spent more than 10 years in South Africa.
Yeah.
And myself and one of my good friends from when I lived in Johannesburg with Russell Campbell Racing, their son's a guy called Greg, and him and I are still very good friends, and we formed a property company. So we did some HMOs, like multiple occupation, for the low income group there. So we did that for quite a few. We still have the properties, but we're busy trying to sell them at the moment.
Okay.
And so I spent a lot of time and effort doing that, and also on the training side, Stefan and myself work with training programs, which is involved with nutrition and training. So a lot on the nutrition side, to do with fasted state training to improve basically your endurance, your fatty acid metabolism, basically, which makes you sort of have more stamina.
Is that all sports? Is it?
Say again, sorry.
Is that all sports? Sorry.
It's focused more on endurance sports. So it helps for anything, but not something like boxing or probably not rugby, things that are more sort of weight and fast twitch muscle. It's a little bit more for triathletes, runners, cyclists, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And then, so I still do a little bit of that with Stefan, and then I've been working in the motor industry actually with one of my best mates, who also actually sponsored me for a little bit in the early days when I was racing British Championships, and we sort of became friends. And the company's corporate car, so I work with them in the motor trade, and we do supply to order for new vehicles, second-hand vehicles, and leasing and so on as well.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
So obviously I knew you're sort of back in the UK now. How long have you been in the UK now then?
It would be I think 3.5 years. I came at the end of 2016, so yeah.
Is that like a permanent thing now? You're staying in the UK? Or?
Yeah. I basically made up my mind. I'm also in the process of trying to sell. I've got a house on the coast in Cape Town in Gordons Bay, and busy trying to sell that. But it's trying to sell property in this market, and especially in South Africa. It's terrible because the economy's been destroyed over the last few years, and now with the coronavirus, it's those types of economies just really battle. I mean, before the virus, we had a unemployment rate of 35%.
Bloody hell.
Yeah. So, and now it's obviously, but anyway, so it's pretty permanent that I'm back here now.
So you've got quite a lot going on then. You're quite busy.
Yeah, quite a few things going on.
Yeah.
And I'll sort of, as the years progress, I'm sort of getting more and more involved with with Trevor, because he's also in the motor industry, so we're sort of on that side doing leasing deals, contract hire, and so on commercial vehicles.
Okay, cool. I just had, what are your social media usernames if people wanted to follow you or catch up with you on various platforms?
I'd have to check. You asked me what my Skype name was. I don't know.
I know.
What is it?
Actually, it was different because I tried another one. You had one, and it obviously said in South Africa.
Yeah.
And then I went back in, wrote that. What was that nickname?
Zuti.
Yeah. So it was under that again, but then it come up with UK Paul Cooper. So you got two.
Okay.
I rang the wrong one first.
Bad. So I have Instagram, which I think is Paul Cooper _95. I think is my Instagram.
Okay. Yeah.
I also have Twitter, but I couldn't tell you what that.
I think it's that nickname again.
Zuti Man.
Yeah, Zuti.
Yeah,
Man.
it could be Zuti Man.
I spotted it, I think.
Yeah, my Twitter handle.
Yeah.
And then obviously I'm on Facebook. I think just Paul Cooper on Facebook. I think.
Okay. Yeah. It is under Paul Cooper.
Yeah.
The last thing I was just wanted to say is any shout outs you want to make or.
I mean, I've got loads, but I mean, I think I want to sort of shout out to all the people that I would sponsored me in the day that I'm still friends with now, which is Multitech, which Trevor Avery, and it was SoCal, but they're not really like that anymore.
Yeah.
And yeah, shout out to a couple of to Shane, because I haven't spoken to him for ages. James Marsh, if he watches this, I'll tell him. In fact, I'll tell him to watch it.
He will, because he's in the group, I think. Yeah, he'll watch it.
Good. And Andy Lee as well. I mean, he won't watch this because he's not sort of au fait with the social media.
Old school, yeah.
But I still talk to him on a daily basis. Actually, I think I said. Yeah. And that's about it. My South African friends in Cheltenham, Richard Goddard, he was one of the guys that actually helped. In fact, he contacted Rob Andrews. Have you had Rob on here yet?
I haven't. No, I've got his book though.
Okay, well you must get him on here.
Yeah, I will do. Yeah, I was trying to.
Because he helped me in the very very early days with Smith goggles and a few different things.
Oh, right, okay.
My friend Richard, who is a British born South African expat and now back here again. So yeah, shout out to him. Yeah. And yeah, that's about it.
Right, I really appreciate your time, Paul. It was amazing speaking to you. Really enjoyed it. I'm sure all the guys out there are going to love reminiscing with you again. Obviously, we all watched you, followed you in the GPs and the British Championships. So
yeah, I hope so. And it was it was really really great to catch up and give me the opportunity to open up and remember all those things. So thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining the group. I see I spotted that you've joined the Facebook group now.
Yeah, I was a bit slow, but I'm just. It's just social media, but I'm sort of getting a little bit more into it. So
yeah, and if you ever get any time, I think if there's a part on there that says announcements, and then you'll see all the different interviews.
Okay.
Plus, we're under the same name, Motocross Memories worldwide on YouTube, and then James March is on there. All these guys that you know. So if you ever got time to have a look at any of them.
Yeah, good.
I'm sure you'll enjoy
stuff.
that as well.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. It's very good for us.
Thanks, mate. It's been awesome to be able to speak to guys like you, so that I looked up to and watched as I grew up as a youngster. So really appreciate it. Top man. Cool. Take it easy, Paul. Much appreciated. Hopefully, I'll be in contact on social media and stuff and speak to you soon.
Yeah, cool.
Thanks, mate. Take it easy. Thank you.